Everybody, it's Kevin Purcell, and we're back with the Theotek podcast, talking church and Bible technology. This morning we've got some interesting things on tap. One of our crew almost got thrown in jail, and we're also going to talk about sermon preparation on your iPad. And so first of all, we'll say hello to you, Rick, from
Good morning.
Bible Software, and are you in the wonderful city of Louisville or nearby there anyway?
I'm at home in Simpsonville,
Right.
Kentucky.
Right outside.
All right.
Yeah, next county over.
Yeah, okay. Well, good to see you this morning. And Wes, the man who nearly landed himself in jail for plotting the overthrow of the American government by taking pictures of a bridge.
That was me. Yay!
He's a pastor as well as a tech guru for the American Baptist Church in New Jersey. And how'd you almost get thrown in jail? I'm sort of over-exaggerating a bit.
No, we did. It was actually a rather respectful exchange. It just happened to be that the officer was incorrect. I put the link to the Flickr images up in our chat. A friend of mine and I are both photography nerds, so we decided we were going to go out and take pictures. It was a gorgeous evening, and we've been wanting to go down to the Tacony-Palmyra Bridge, which is right near here, and grab some pictures of the river. And you know, from the really unique angle. And on our way back down, we were met by two bridge police officers who told us, hey, they were very nice. So this is not the typical thing that you see on YouTube of the police really totally overstretching. He just said, you know, Department of Homeland Security says no pictures of the bridge. And I'm like, okay. So, and I did point out to him that that was actually incorrect, but you know, he's working on old information. But what was really funny is that he asked for my ID, and I didn't have it because it was in my car, which was in Palmyra, Pennsylvania, because my wife had taken it and I had left it in the car. He's like, oh. So my neighbor gave him his, and I think what got us out is I actually said, look, I'm just a pastor over here in Palmyra. He's like, what, you guys are just literally just locals for a walk? I'm like, yeah. He's like, all right, get out of here. So I did write to the Bridge Commission, and I have not heard back from them yet, because that, as much as it was a humorous exchange and it was actually very respectful, that type of kind of paranoia about photography is really, really dangerous. It's a real overstretch of authority, and there has been no change in the law about taking pictures of infrastructure, with very few exceptions since 9/11. Like, you can't take pictures of like nuclear research facilities. But like bridges and everything are very much on limits, and to be told that was the only thing that I was a little bit unnerved by. So I'm trying to be doing my due diligence as a good citizen, you know, working out my theology and trying to work with the Bridge Commission to say there's got to be a way that we can do this, that you don't have to respond to 911 calls because you know who we are, and we get to continue our rights as, you know, free citizens in the country to take pictures of stuff. So it was rather interesting. And as you know, Kevin's got them up on his screen there. All my illegal pictures of the bridge are up on Flickr. So
I'm telling you, you're looking pretty good. I mean, you're looking.
That guy was awesome. He jogged across the river, and I cheered him on the way back. I like pointed to my camera, and he just stopped and posed. I'm like, okay, sure, go ahead. So like the bridge is like a mile long, and he went up and turned right back around. It was pretty cool. So, but really neat. Really unique
off in the distance.
Yeah, that's Center City, Philly, and that is my favorite picture. I mean, just from the sunset, the colors of the sky, and it's a totally unique image of the skyline. So there's actually, if you see the one that says slippery, that's probably the one that got the cops called on me, because I'm sitting there pointing the camera, you know, towards the deck, and somebody probably saw it. And you know, DHS says, you know, if you see something, you have to say something. So welcome to the police state. But it was, in the end, it was a good exchange, and I will not let it go. I'm going to try to work very proactively to help the Bridge Commission get a better attenuated as to what the rights are of photographers. So, and I've actually heard a couple of other interesting stories. I had one of our members back when he was in 7th grade. He's in college now. They were filming a video down by the bridge in a park, and they had the police escort them out of the park.
about that?
So this has been a long-standing misinformation that's been passed on. Obviously they've been trained incorrectly,
Well,
or working on some older information as to what DHS prefers we don't do. But what the Department of Homeland Security prefers we don't do is the same thing as me saying I would prefer people not put cream in coffee.
but you've
It's not.
you've really set a good example though of how to properly respond to these things, because if you sit there and you start arguing and then it escalates, you can end up getting arrested or worse,
Or
or
worse.
worse. And so by going through the process afterwards, that's a much better way to handle it.
I will educate. Now, I will say this. If he had asked for my camera, I would have gotten arrested. Because there's no way I would have handed it over. I mean, like, you had literally no right to ask for that. So, and I would have been gentle about it, but I would have been arrested.
I don't know if it would have worked. I used to, back when I was more into photography, I used to listen to a podcast from Joel Story. Is that his name? Anyway,
I don't know. It's your
photographer,
story.
podcaster.
Uh-huh.
He said that a great way to get away from those kinds of problems, saying all the same things you have said, that it's not illegal, that police officers that stop you are confused about the law and not well trained. But he said one of the things that might help you is if you just have a photographer's badge.
Mm-hmm.
And so he actually produced a thing that you could print off, say that you're an official photographer, and I don't remember the name of his little club thing that you could say you were a member of. So I'm a staff photographer for, and then the name of his club with your name and a big long ID number,
Yep.
that you could have on there. And then you just whip that badge out and say, well, no, I'm not, a bad guy. Here's what I'm doing. I'm taking.
And he asked us, he did ask us if we were on a job. Like, are you working for someone? Because, they're not going to mess with press.
Like
so
ISIS or yeah. Okay, well, that's lots of fun. And here's the thing. You got a great sermon illustration out of it, right? Someday
Yes.
in the future you can use it. And
Romans
you got
13.
pictures that you can use for visual, backdrop for some story about bridges or about deer or about water or whatever. That's one tip I've not really done a good job of using myself, and that is use your own photography as
Dang right.
multimedia sermon illustration material. I do that some, but not enough. I'm the lazy one. I go search for, public domain photos on Flickr or on Google Images. But anyway, so that's cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. One of the things we wanted to get into today was I wrote an article over at my website about sermon preparation on your iPad. Have either of you ever, from start to finish, and when I say start, I mean the very beginning stages of reading the passage, and I say finish, I mean when you said amen after you were done preaching. Have you ever written and prepared and preached a sermon entirely from your iPad or some other tablet?
Yes.
Yes, 75%. I usually, the research part, I usually flip back and forth.
Okay, so Rick, you said yes.
Yeah, it's not necessarily an ideal situation for me, but at times when I've been on the road, that was an easy way to put something together. Even while sometimes my wife drives, when we're on a long trip, and I can sit there with my iPad. But yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, and I've done it when I'm taking people out if they need a ride to a doctor's office or something on a day where I would normally be doing some sermon prep. It's really helpful, and I as much as I love Accordance in the mobile space for doing research and translation and notes, the way that they handle split screen for it is really, really good, and then I end up syncing it over to Accordance later because that's my preferred platform. But it's very helpful to have the tablet with you.
Well, let's talk about this. All right, so what are some things that we're going to need to do this? I've outlined my opinion about this in my post. If you go to kevinpurcell.org and either click on the blog or just scroll down just a little bit where you see the featured images, or featured post, you'll find it there pretty easily. And feel free to follow me on Twitter, K.A. Purcell, in order to find out when I post a new post over there. You can also, by the way, subscribe to my website through email now. But anyway, the things that I kind of said were you need a good keyboard, because it's really miserable to type on that iPad screen for a long period of time. It's great for short little messages or entering text in your browser or whatever, but it's not very much fun for writing a sermon. I said some people actually prefer to write than type, and so a good stylus can help in this situation. And then apps, we need a Bible study app, right? You also need maybe a note-taking app or a word processing app. For some people, they would like a mind mapping app. And then when it's said and done, you need some kind of presentation software if you're going to present visuals while you're preaching, like I often do. And so let's go through these. Let's start off with keyboards. Do either of you have a recommendation for a really great Bluetooth iPad keyboard?
Go ahead, Rick.
I don't have it here in front of me, but I've got one of the Logitech keyboards that connects to the iPad on the kind of like on the hinge, and it closes and can be a shell, and it's great for I use it all the time, like if I'm in a meeting and want to take notes from my iPad, and it just connects by Bluetooth. You just turn it on and it's ready to go. There's the home key will take you. In fact, you can double tap the home key on the keyboard and it will go into that card view, and you can go back and forth between apps. And I've used 2 or 3 different keyboards in the past, but I really like what Logitech is offering.
I just have the standard Apple Bluetooth keyboard, and I have a nice case that has a separate sleeve that it fits in perfectly. And for me, the keyboard is less about the extra features, so I thought I would really want the home key to be able to go through and stuff, and I did have a Bluetooth keyboard that did that. But for me, the keyboard is really about the typing. I mean, that's where I am, and just that, for whatever reason, the action on that Apple Bluetooth keyboard is just the way my fingers want to work, and I actually like it better than my MacBook Pro keyboard. I've actually thought about just typing with that sometime. And to me, it's really a wonderful typing experience. So that's what I end up using. They're supposed to be coming out with an update version, and it might be announced at the thing next week. And I'm assuming that it will have some of the iOS features built in. But for me, it's just an ideal keyboard for typing. I really love it.
Well, I agree. I was holding up my Apple keyboard, and I used to have a little case that you could get so you could carry it along with your iPad, and it didn't have to worry about scratching it, because it does have really sharp edges, right?
Oh, yes.
And so you want to be very careful if you're going to carry this, either encase your iPad so you don't scratch any part of it, because it'll easily scratch with the sharp edges of this thing.
Yeah, that's why I have that separate pocket.
Yeah, put this in a case or a separate pocket. I have a case from Waterfield Designs that actually had a slot for this keyboard, and then also your iPad could slide in there, either with a cover or not. But I also really like Logitech, and I don't have it with me today. I'll show you the one that I use from Logitech. Let's see here. This Bluetooth Easy Switch keyboard is a really nice option, because first of all, it feels a lot like the Apple keyboard, but secondly, it lets you connect up to 3 different Bluetooth devices. And guess what I carry? I carry with me at any time 2 cell phones and an iPad, and so I've almost always got 3 devices. And if you want, it's crazy, but connecting all 3 of them, you turn that thing on, hit a button to switch, and if you get a quick text message on your phone, you can type it instead of hunt and peck with your finger on the screen. And so I really like it. It's been durable. I've had it forever.
And Kev, that would be my alternative.
Yeah.
And Kevin, since you're on that Logitech page, if you can go back out to the keyboards, we can probably find the one that that I've got. I probably could have run to the other room and picked it up in this amount of time.
Okay. Is yours a keyboard case?
Yeah, well, the ultra thin keyboard
Mhm.
cover. I've got the one that's white, but that's showing a black one. But it connects with a magnet on the hinge, and then you can pull that out and kind of set it there in that little slot to set at an angle.
Yeah, I've got this one as well, just because they sent me a review unit. It's not the one I typically use, just because I don't really want to carry the keyboard and with the iPad around all the time.
Mhm.
And so I actually keep my keyboard in my computer bag.
Well, that's what I do too.
Out when I need it. But yeah, that's a really nice one as well. The reason I like the Easy Switch or the Apple keyboard is they're wider than the iPad. The case keyboards are usually the same width of the iPad,
Mhm.
so you're going to have a little trouble carrying it or typing if you have big hands like I do. But that's a good option. And in fact, what I was going to show you here is I'm hoping to get in. Let's see if I can find it. Nope. iPad cases. There's one called the Block, B-L-O-K, from Logitech. And there it is. When you look at that, what's that look like, Rick?
I don't know.
Well, you don't see a good. Here it is. Can you see that little
Looks like
black?
a Nokia.
Looks like a Surface Pro to me.
Oh, okay.
Surface Pro 3 or something like that. Anyway, so it's a case that has a keyboard built in that makes it look a little bit like the Surface Pro 3.
Folds out. Kev, I just threw a link in our chat for something that I've been meaning to check out, and if I ever get a chance, I'll check it out. But this actually looks fairly interesting. That's a keyboard.
Yeah, in fact, Antoine recommended. I don't know if you remember when we all did our favorite accessories. And he mentioned this, and I'll tell you what, I would hate this thing. I can almost guarantee you. That
I'm interested in trying because it is a full width keyboard. It doesn't look like it is, but it is.
Yeah, I don't know. These fold-up keyboards like this usually, in my opinion, don't work well. And in fact, in my article, I didn't even bother recommending one, even though I mentioned, because I know some people that's what they like, something they can just quickly throw in their pants pocket or with ladies in a purse maybe. But I think that would drive me nuts.
Well, and you know what I think would be difficult about it too is that for any keyboard to be of real use, you have to use it a lot and let it just become muscle memory with the way that keyboard is laid out. And if you're switching back and forth between one of those portable ones, especially that different design like that, and then going back to a regular keyboard, I don't know how proficient you could ever completely get on it.
Yeah. One of the things that I find interesting is that I've used an external keyboard less and less since I've gotten that one keyboard app for my Mac, because I can just use hotkeys on my Mac and connect to any device that I want. And so when I'm sitting in my office, especially at work, if I need to connect to the Apple TV or to the Mac Mini or to the iMac or to my iPad or even my phone, you know, I can do that with a key switch. And so I've actually used my wireless keyboard less and less, just for that reason, because I'm always sitting there with multiple devices, and so rather than having an extra keyboard, it's just, you know, key switch and I'm off.
I'm looking for on Microsoft Store something called the Microsoft Universal. There it is, the Microsoft Universal Mobile Keyboard. I'll share this with you. And while you'd say, why would I want to use a Microsoft keyboard with my iPad? First of all, that price.
It's a great price.
That's a cheap price for a really, really good keyboard. You can find cheap keyboards for $20, right? You're not going to like them. You'll probably hate using them, but you can find them. But what this does is it closes, this top part closes down over the keyboard, and it's a little bit softer material, and so I don't mind carrying it along with my iPad. Even if I'm using the Apple cover with the back exposed, I'm not worried about scratching the back of my iPad with it. It's got really great key action, and you can use it to hold the iPad. which you can see here, the tablet, there's like a little channel at the back of the keyboard that'll hold the iPad up for you. It's
And
Bluetooth, battery
that's
lasts a really long time. And when I got it, it was actually it was the regular price, $79.95. And so at, what's that, $15 off now?
Yeah.
That's
Ted,
a
you
great
can do
deal.
that with like the Apple modifier keys too, right?
Yes, it does. And so notice it's got, you can either use window or command.
Command key.
It's got both on there. And it's got, by the way, it also connects up to 3 devices, and it has a little switch, and it has little icons for Windows, Android, and iOS. That way you can connect anything to any of the 3 positions. However, if you connect the right one to the right icon, if that's even a word, switch, then in your mind you can remind yourself all right, do I have number 1 with my iPad or with my smartphone, my Android smartphone? And that way it gives you a visual reminder of which one you connected. So that's a great one as well. So I really, really like that. Any other keyboards you want to throw out there? We've jumped on a bunch of them. Okay.
No.
Well, those are the ones that I mentioned. I didn't put the picture of the Apple keyboard on here, but I think it's a great one. What about a stylus? Anybody got a great stylus you prefer?
Oh yeah, I like the Go Smart. Let me go get it, but I'll give you the link.
Okay. While he's doing that, Rick, have you got one?
I've got the case here. That's not be much helpful. The Jot script that works through Bluetooth with the iPad. This was the Evernote edition, and the thing that it works actually well, but the thing that I don't like about it is that it makes a lot of noise, and they've made a newer one that's supposed to be much quieter. But there's now even some third-party handwriting recognition keyboards for the iPad, and the pen works really well with that too. But it's the noise aspect of it keeps me from using it more than what I actually do. That's from a non-Jot script.
The one that you're talking about here, let's see if I can find it, the Jot script.
Right. But I think they've improved it. I think that that new one there is not as noisy as the one that I have.
I had that one, and to be honest with you, I liked it okay. It wasn't my favorite, and I let my son borrow it. He took it to Fruitland Bible Institute where he goes to college, and he didn't really like it, but one of his buddies loved it. And so he said, well, why don't you try it out, and if you like it, I bet my dad will sell it to you, because I paid the full price for it. And I never saw it, never saw any money. The kid left school, so he gave it away.
See, and that's the Jot script too, so that is the one that is quieter than mine was metal, that little metal ball hitting against glass, which is also noisy, and that one has been improved.
They softened the thing so there's a little give on it now, so it doesn't tack. I had the Go Smart, and I put the link in the chat. But if you can see,
well, before you get to that one, we're right here on this same page. Let me just show off the one that I'm about to get.
Okay.
Because it's from Jot as well. It's the Jot Dash, and I really like the idea of it. For one, this clicking feature on it is supposed to open up any app.
Oh, cool.
And I'm not sure how that's going to work, or whether it's even going to work with iOS or not. It's got a fine tip of 1.9 millimeter tip. It's got the cool features that you were talking about, in much of the benefits of that other one. But I think this one's going to be even better. And plus, this doesn't require any app. You can anything you want that you can interact with a finger on the iPad, you can interact with this. And then, of course, both of those that you just mentioned, Rick, and this one have the nice charging USB charging port.
That's cool.
So it's a little pricey, but I just ordered it, and it'll be in sometime.
$50 for an active stylus.
That's cheaper than I paid for my Jot script.
Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, that's not really expensive at all.
It doesn't do like palm rejection or anything because it's not tied into software, but it's.
No, but if the app does palm, like Penultimate does palm rejection built in.
Oh, okay, that's kind of cool.
So you can use that, and some other apps. The one I use is Notability, and it has the zoomed
I
entry
love
box
that.
that shows up at the
Yeah,
bottom of the screen. I won't use a note-taking app unless it has that feature because
same
it's
here.
just so much easier. All right, so you were talking about the Go Smart.
Go Smart. Now I've been considering going up to one of those fine tip styluses because I really like it. But if you look at my Go Smart here, you can just see it has a metal disc. And if you remember, like a couple of apps that had like the plastic disc that came in, you couldn't really see through it to where you were writing. This is really accurate, and it feels like I'm writing with a pen, even though I'm not. And it's quiet as all get out. That little spring, it makes almost no noise whatsoever. And I've taken notes in meetings and lectures and whatnot, and I haven't disturbed anybody. So I really like it. That's one of the things. My son just got the Surface 3, and they have the pen. Man, that thing is loud. Just tack, 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 tack constantly. And this is very, very quiet. So I'm very impressed with it, although I have been thinking about going to one of those fine point styluses just for the heck of it. But they're, fairly cheap and very rugged, and I like the way that little spring works on the metal. Very, very cool. This has been my favorite stylus to work with.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
That tip on it,
Yeah.
how well does that stay? I don't know what the right word for it is. I had one just like this. I think it was another one from Adonit,
Yeah.
and that tip got ruined very quickly because it didn't have a cover to protect it.
Well, I have my pen cap to put it on.
So it comes with a pen cap to cover
it also comes with a magnet, so I can attach it to the iPad, which is really kind of cool. Of course, it just fell off.
Okay.
But it's pretty nice. The one thing I would say about it is because it's metal, they do say that they recommend using a screen protector on it, on your iPad, because you can scratch it just from repetitive use.
Oh yeah.
And on my iPad too, I did notice that I had couple of little micro scratches that were caused by it. So that's the downfall with it, which is one of the reasons why I'm thinking about going to a finer point.
Okay.
But I've enjoyed it. It's really worked well.
Well, let's see here if I can find. I want to mention a couple of other that I had linked in my article. The Just Mobile Alu Pen Digital is another one that I really like. Now, you guys think the Surface stylus is loud. You ain't heard loud until you've heard this thing. However, it's really nice. I mean, in the tip, it feels like you're writing with a fine tip marker.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
That's what it feels like. And then it's nice and thick. It does have an issue. It twists to turn on and off.
Right.
And that twist, sometimes it gets a little funky. You have to kind of twist back and forth. But as far as the feel of if you like a thick marker or pen, and you want to use one of these fine tips, if you can get past the sound, it's nice. Plus this $49.95. When I bought mine, it was a lot more expensive. It was like $60.
Cool.
And so they sent me one, and I lost it. So I liked it so much, I went and bought another one. And then, lo and behold, about 2 weeks after the one I bought came in the mail, I found the one I lost. So I actually have two of them.
Oh, wow.
And no one else in my family likes it because they say it's too loud. So, but I really love the feel of this one. Let's see.
And it makes the Surface Pen seem quiet.
Yeah, it does. It really does. So that's just, you have to be, just something you'll have to think of. And then another one I've used is the Bamboo Fine Line. This is a really good one as well. It's not the one I use all the time, but
Kevin, is that app dependent, or can you use it as an active stylus in anything?
it is app dependent for all the features like the pressure sensitivity, but it does behave as just a normal stylus anywhere.
Okay.
And then let's see, the other one that I mentioned is I did this for Antoine. We don't want to leave this off because this is the one he uses and swears by. It's the pencil from 53.
That tip just looks so thick.
Yeah, that's why I wouldn't like it. But if you're an artist,
Yeah.
This paper app from 53 is the best drawing app. And of course, we've shown you Antoine's note taking visually instead of writing a lot of words. And so if you're an artist or just really like the idea of a pencil feel and you want the free form of an app like Paper, which doesn't have lines or a zoom box or anything like that, then you'll love this. So I actually just included this not because I like it or I use it, but because Antoine sure does, and he swears by it. So
he showed his notes to my daughter, and my daughter's like, "Why can't I do this in school?" So
why? And what's the answer to that? Why can't she do that in school?
probably because she hasn't asked. But a lot of teachers don't think if you're not writing an outline, you're not doing it properly.
Okay.
So when she gets to college, she can do that.
Well, let's move on to apps. That's the next thing I jumped on. Let's start with you, Rick, and tell us why Accordance. I know that's going to probably be your go-to since you're an employee of Accordance. So tell us about Accordance and what makes its mobile app so valuable for mobile Bible study.
Well, I have all of the standard Bible apps on my iPad, but it is true that I do most of my work out of Accordance, unless it's a title that I just don't have in Accordance, and then I'll go to one of the other ones. But I like the split screen. Of course, I would like to have 4 panels, which I keep mentioning to the iOS development team at Accordance, and evidently that's complicated to do on an iPad. You don't see too much of that kind of thing out there, but I like having the split screen so I can have multiple text. I can take notes on it easily, and I can do my research there. I can also sync that with my with Accordance that's on my laptop, so that I can have access to those notes that I've accumulated over years and years. And so it works. I think it works really well for me, especially after version 2 was released. I think once version 2 was released, it really started to come into its own. And there's some upcoming features which I can't mention yet, but that's gonna make it even better.
The Atlas, please, the Atlas.
Yeah, that one day.
Kevin, I'm sharing the Accordance with right now.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. I've got a black screen is all I'm seeing.
Really?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Are you sharing the window or your entire screen?
Sharing the entire screen. That's interesting.
Yeah, all I see is a black screen. Antoine's with us. Antoine, you just missed.
Hi, Antoine.
You just missed my recommendation of the Pencil by 53 as a great stylus for digital Bible study and note taking and such. You want to share anything about that, my friend?
I use mine all the time, as you can tell. Can you guys hear me good?
Yep.
Cool. Pencil by 53, excellent stylus. Probably the only thing that I would say is a knock on the 53 stylus. I've literally used mine so much that I'm on my 5th set of pen tips and my 3rd set of eraser tips. I use mine a lot. Wow. I carry it all day, every day. So I really do go through it. If you're a type of person that writes hard with a pen or pencil, the pencil stylus is not where you should go at all. However, if you have children who like to pick up your stylus and use it, the pencil stylus works out really well because it's got enough give that they won't break the stylus tip and won't break the screen. So it's really solid in that wise.
Cool. All right. Well, now we've moved on to Bible apps, and I know you're not a favorite of any kind of app, but we just heard Rick talk about the Accordance app, and of course Wes was trying to show it off. It's
is it still a black screen?
Yeah, we're still
a black screen.
Right
It's so weird because my preview's showing it just fine.
Yeah.
That happens. It's a Hangout issue. That's actually
Alright.
a Hangout issue. Yeah, it's a Hangout issue. It's not anything. I get it on the Chrome OS, and it's a known issue.
It's probably because, and I'm actually in Chrome, so it might be having problems.
Yeah.
Today.
Yeah. It's all fine. Actually, there is a Bible app that I would point out there, but it's not available yet, so I can only talk about it. And given that I'm on my iPad right now, I can't show it to you either. But a friend of mine is making one called Verse 3 that I've been playing with and testing. It's not a Bible app in the traditional sense of an olive tree or a pocket Bible or Logos. It's actually built from the perspective of notes out. So you load up, not first your Bible, but basically you load up a screen to start writing your notes. And then you search the Bible for those texts along the way. It's oriented around the person who's the audience person who's listening to scriptures being talked about, which is pretty cool. And then it backs up. Its backup is a Dropbox folder. And it does the backup of your notes and those snippets of the scripture and a flat text file in Dropbox, which is like, yay, it goes anywhere. It's really cool. The gentleman who's working on it is polishing it up. It has the KJV, the HCV, NIV, and a few other versions that are linked to it. That's highlights and notes. Highlights and editing of the notes really easy. It's pretty slick.
Well, when he gets that finished, make sure you invite him to come on and show it to us.
He is. He's already agreed to come on and show it once the app is public. And yeah, he's actually probably going to be watching this now, smiling.
Oh, cool. Wes, aside from Accordance, I know that's also your go-to mobile app, isn't it?
Yeah, I split my time in mobile between that and Olive Tree. I think they have real good different strengths and weaknesses. Accordance's search translates from the desktop to mobile beautifully. I like the way that Olive Tree has you enter notes in the split screen, which is what I've wanted Accordance to do for ages, because I can work with all my tools in one side and then type in the other side. So if I want to look up something in BDAG or something, I can highlight a word and go through and research that while I'm still got my typing window open. On the other hand, when I want to read my notes, I'd rather be in Accordance, because it scrolls through with my open Bible, and in Olive Tree you have to click on each note separately. It doesn't do it automatically. So there's different strengths between the two. I think Olive Tree has nailed sync a lot better than Accordance has. Right now I have all my Accordance sync is working perfectly. That was having trouble for ages. Olive Tree has always been, lights out, just works between my mobile devices and my desktop, and so those are the different things. I like the display of Accordance better than Olive Tree. For a real long time, I thought Olive Tree really just kind of looked nicer, and it was a much more pleasant reading experience. And I think Accordance has really caught up a lot. Just like Rick has said, since 2.0, Accordance has really, moved forward. But they're both really good apps.
Well, I would say that Accordance took a huge step forward in your most recent update of it, and I was, even on air here, I said, before the mobile version 2.0 came out, I just never used it. I had it installed just, in case there was an update, I could look at it real quick, but I just never went to it. But now it's a lot more useful. I just find it a lot easier to use now in version 2.0. I also use Olive Tree for some of the same reasons that you just talked about. I have a bigger library in Olive Tree than I do in some of the other apps that I own, because I use it a lot on my desktop as well. But so it's a beautiful app. All of these come free, right? I mean, I don't think any of the ones that we've talked about so far cost any money.
Not up front, no. Just to buy your library. Right,
but you do have to get a library, but they all give you a small free library of some useful books as well. But another couple of ones I want to mention, just real quick, is Logos is kind of the elephant in the room. It's one of the biggest. That's not the way to use that term, but you understand. It's one of the biggest Bible app companies, and so I'm a Logos user primarily on my desktops and laptops, and so that translates to me probably using it more on my iPad. It's a lot more complex. If you want something simple, this is not your app. But if you want something very powerful, it's got a lot of things that it can do, and reading plans, and I like the guides, although I use them a lot less now than I used to. The verse of the day, it's all right. The graphics that they create are, I don't know, pretty ho-hum in my opinion. I'm not a real fan of any of the graphics that they do. Very few of them really take the subject of the verse and present it beautifully and visually. Most of the time, they just look like somebody threw something together in Photoshop and put it there. So again, I'm not a huge fan of that, but let's see. Anyway, I'm not doing a very good job of explaining why I like it.
Kevin, what's the speed of their mobile app compared to their desktop?
The mobile app's much faster than the desktop app.
Interesting.
And that's because their desktop app is just, it's like driving a semi-truck in a NASCAR race. Really, really slow.
But the mobile app does require an internet connection for a lot of the features, which sometimes can be problematic.
Yeah, if you're not always connected, again, this is probably not the best option. I would say, if you're an Accordance user and have a good library, that's probably a better option for complex Bible study. And also, Olive Tree is the same. It's a much better option for really good intermediate level Bible study if you're not connected to the internet. I do want to mention another one. Let's see if I'm on the right screen here, and that is Pocket Bible by Laridian. I know not a lot of people use it or talk about it, but Rick, you were talking about wishing that you could have 4 panes.
Yeah.
Pocket Bible allows you to have up to 4 panes. I think it might be even up to 5 panes open at one time. It's got a decent set of books in the library, and it's interesting that when I click on their link, it won't show the iTunes online page, even though everyone else's will. So I can't really show off the visual features of it very much. But
they've been around a long time. They were on the Newton, the Apple Newton years ago, back in the 90s. Yeah, wow. They had an NIV Bible on the Newton. And they're one of the first. They're also the only significant, what I would say, the only significant Bible app that's on the Windows Phone.
I would go so far as to say it's the only decent, worthwhile Bible app on Windows.
Well, that's what I meant.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you said significant. I was thinking like size. I'm thinking more like, can I use this to do Bible study? And it's the only one.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. Craig Reardon is the owner of this company, and he and his team. They're a small group. In fact, I think he's now the only full-time developer at Laridian. They used to have another fellow, and I'm losing his name right off the top of my head. But he unfortunately died a couple years ago of cancer. Really super nice guy. Craig's a good guy and is a brilliant guy and everything. If you ever follow him on Twitter, you'll find out that he's also an opinionated, prickly kind of guy. But I like people like that, so that's okay with me. But he does a great job. I just think it's a really nice app if you've got a decent library. And, of course, this was what I used on my Pocket PC days, and so that's why I'm really have an affinity for it. And he created QuickVerse on the desktop, which is one of the first real Bible programs for Windows. When they come out with, they're coming out with some new stuff soon. I can't say much about it, but I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it. And when they finally do come out with it, I've invited him to come on the program, and we'll talk about it. But I also we're going to have to talk, history of Bible software with him because he's one of the pioneers in the industry, and he's one of only, I think, 6 members now of the Church Technology Hall of Fame. So
we have a Hall of Fame.
What's that?
Yep.
We have a Hall of Fame.
Yeah, you didn't know that, did you?
No,
Yeah.
I'm really out of the loop.
It's a Christian computing magazine thing. I don't know if they're going to bring it over for Ministry Tech Magazine. We haven't added anybody in a number of years, but Craig Reardon was one of the inaugural inductees. We inducted 5 people at the very beginning, and we've only added 1 person since. I've suggested a couple of people, but Steve Hewitt hasn't signed on to them yet, so they're not in. But anyway, so these are some good apps, and people might ask, well, which one should I get? My answer to that question is get the one that corresponds to the one you use on your desktop first. And second, I would say,
there's Antoine, hush. You don't have a desktop. You can't talk.
yeah, I would say
Well,
that second, get to hang
Well,
on,
that's
Antoine. I would say second, then get the one that works the best the way you work. Try them all out and get the one that works best the way you work. And the reason that first thing is said, and Antoine, I know you're probably going to say lots of things about this, but it's library. What do you have books in? You need to go where your library is.
And your notes.
And your notes. And so, even if it's a crappy app, I would say still use it. Make sure you use it because that's where your books are.
Yes,
all right, Antoine,
Antoine,
let me give Antoine a chance to rebut what I said with his foolishness. All right, go ahead. No, I'm kidding.
My foolishness. No, it's all right. No, the only reason why I wouldn't say go to where your desktop app is because that last point, go to where your notes is more important than go to where your desktop is. And that's only because of all the things that we can take with us from one Bible app to another. The notes are the only thing that go with us that usually can go with us from one to the other. There are some exceptions there, but if you have a significant body of notes, try out every application, see where your notes work best, and then build from there. Because at least on the mobile side, it's a little easier. Licensing is a little bit, not great, but it's a little bit easier to find the same books across different platforms. If you start first stick with what's on your desktop first, in my opinion, you limit yourself to the quality of whatever they did on their mobile app. Not everybody's in accordance and made a spanking good app. Not everybody's an olive tree, and so I'd be hesitant to say go with your desktop first. I would say go with your notes first.
Well, but the two are going to be the same for probably 99 out of 100 people, right? Because whatever you use on the desktop is where you've been taking notes for the last 3 or 5 or 20 years. And so that's, they're going to be in the same place.
Yeah.
Am I right about that, guys?
Yeah, I actually would say use the one that works best because I told you I will take my notes when I'm on the road in Olive Tree, and then I'll copy them over to Accordance later because I just like the way Olive Tree works to do notes on the mobile, and I don't like the way Accordance does it.
All right, so you're agreeing with me then?
No, I say work the way it works first.
Well, but what I said was go get what's your desktop, and you've got that, right? Accordance.
I flip
and then
it.
also try all the others and find out which one works best.
No,
So
he's going the other way. He's going with his mobile first.
I'm going
with his mobile
the one
first.
that works best, and then get the desktop.
But you're going to do both, so it's like saying I'm going to get both the engine and the seats in the car.
Yeah,
I'm going to get the car with both the engine and the seats. Of course, you're going to get both. There's no reason not to.
Right.
Yeah.
But I work from the reverse perspective. That's all.
Okay.
You work notes first. You're like Wes and I think are similar. That we work notes first before library first.
Yeah, but you're going to get both, and so that's my point. Well, in other words, I guess what I'm trying to say is none of us are disagreeing with each other here. All right, Rick, last word on this?
Well, and the other thing that you can do as well is you can always, kind of like what Wes is saying, put notes in more than one place.
Mm-hmm.
It's not only a good way to have an extra backup of those notes by putting them in more than one application. It's usually as easy as copy and paste, but it also future-proofs your notes as well. I think that the standard Bible apps that are out right now, these companies are very solid, and I'm not worried about any of them. But it's a good step to do. And a little tip that I could give too on taking notes in Accordance, the Accordance app is I take my notes on my iPad in that mobile notes notebook, and then I later transfer them to my regular notes, just in case something happens between those two note streams. The notes that I've been taking in accordance for years and years and years, I don't want to ever go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's jump now to the third section of the things that I talked about in my article, and that is, we've looked at some of the best apps for studying the Bible. We've also talked about taking notes in those apps, which I think is a really important thing. Plus, on the iPad, it's easier because you still can only do one program well until iOS 9 comes out, and then the side-by-side feature that iOS 9 is going to have is only really going to be fully supported on the latest iPad. If you have a first-gen iPad Air, you can use a little bit of the dual pane view, but
I can't wait for it, though.
But it doesn't work well on the iPad Air, so I just don't use it. And then on the previous iPads, it doesn't work at all.
Right.
So I would say, work inside your Bible app. And another tip is, if you have a good Bible app that you like and it's easy to use notes, it might be good just to write your sermons or Bible studies right from inside the app and use it there. Now, preaching from that might be a challenge. I don't know. I don't do it, but some people say they do. But let's say you don't want to do that, but you want to use another app. We've all talked about, over the past about using things like Pages, which is a word processing app, or the new Word Mobile apps on the iPad and Android. Those are excellent. I think Microsoft's done a really nice job. I know, Wes, you use something that's a Markdown app called, remind me the name again?
Editorial.
Editorial. So those are all great options for that. But sometimes you don't want a full word processing app or even a text writing app. You just want something that's quick and easy to take notes that will sync up to a computer. And so what I've done is I've suggested a couple on my article. I didn't suggest the editorial because I didn't know about it yesterday when I finished this, but I mentioned Evernote. I think all of us use Evernote, and that's great because it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. Computer, desktop, laptop. It's in the Windows Store. It's on Android, iPhone, Windows Phone. It's everywhere. So it doesn't matter. You're never going to get stuck in one place. So we won't say a whole lot more about Evernote unless you guys have some great, wonderful tip about using it for Bible study and sermon prep. Well, I do have one tip about it. They also have a presentation mode. So you can drop photos and images into it and actually present from Evernote. So look that up. I also want to
mention, Kevin, real quick on Evernote, they also make it very easy to set up what I call a quick and dirty web page. You can share your note out to the web very quickly. And that's very convenient.
Yeah, especially if you've got the very few people do this, but it's a great way to study and prepare is get a preparation team. You can either do it with volunteers in your church, which is a nice way to get them thinking about your message before you preach it. It's also a nice way of getting another perspective on your message from people. Or if you have a team of pastors all preaching through a similar series, you can share. It's got great sharing and chat built in. But another thing I want to mention is, since we're talking about iOS and the iPad, and that is the new Notes app that's getting ready to come out. If you have used the Notes app on iOS in the past, you'll notice, for the most part, it's terrible, but the new one is actually really nice, and it's a lot more worthy of use. Plus, it's going to sync with your computer, and if you'd like, you can also get it on the web now through iCloud. One of the things that they've added to it is, you do things like checklists, and you can also sketch and draw from inside the app, which will be nice. You can add photos from inside the app, which will be a useful thing. So don't count out Notes, which is already on the iPad. You don't have to add anything new there. Have either of you guys, I know Wes seems to have dropped off for a second, but either of you guys used iOS 9 and the Notes app at all?
I have, and Wes had to go. He apologized for having to run. I've used it, and they're really, you can tell that they're going to become an Evernote competitor. They aren't quite as full-featured yet, but a lot more powerful. And my wife uses Notes. I've tried to get her to use Evernote, and for whatever reason, Evernote looks too complicated for her. But Notes is easy and it's straightforward, and she uses that quite a bit.
Well, I'm sorry that Wes had to go. He wanted to share this app called Editorial, which is another option for doing apps. And if you're familiar with Markdown, Markdown is basically, instead of clicking on a bold icon, you do a couple of quick keystrokes or things, and it does things like that. It does formatting using text, that kind of thing. And so that's an option. To me, I always thought Markdown to me seems like voodoo, and I don't understand it or why people prefer to use it, but he loves it, and so this is a nice app that is something you can take a look at. So that's one that he mentioned for that. I like IA Writer, which also handles text as well, and then there's Antoine, if you can put that in the chat right in Hangouts, that would be a lot easier.
I can't do that. I can't do that from the iPad.
Okay.
No, I can't do that from the iPad. But yeah, no. If Markdown is a really cool thing for getting format. I mean, it's a flat text file. I know a lot of folks like WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get for formatting options, but Markdown makes it a little bit easier to go from platform to platform without losing that key formatting piece. And if you're a big outline person, that would be definitely suitable. What Kevin just pulled up, TW Edit for TiddlyWiki. That's a product that I use, so it's kind of my Evernote other, but it uses a writing style, Wikitext, that's similar to what you use on Wikipedia, and it's similar to Markdown. It does the same kind of item. You can get text, and it's got a big old plug-in system, but then on the iOS side and the Android side, you have this TW Edit app that allows you to write in that text, that Markdown type text, that Wikitext, so that you can have that formatting of the note, and then it can get exported to wherever you want to, because it's a flat HTML file.
All right, cool. Rick, what do you use primarily for word processing, though, on your iPad? What's your number one tool that you always go to?
Number one is Evernote, and then if I need to distribute it, I will use Mobile Word. And I used to use Pages, but I've gone to Mobile Word now. I think it's a little bit more full-featured.
Yeah, I'm actually on Mobile Word primarily, and that's because I use it on my laptop, my preferred place to do sermon preparation. But I think Microsoft's done a really nice job, first of all, with the integration of OneDrive into both the desktop/laptop apps and their mobile apps, and so it makes it really easy to write on one and then pull it up, almost instantly on the other one. That syncing is incredibly fast,
Yes.
So long as you're connected properly. For some reason, lately, I'm not sure why, but lately it seems like I have to keep reactivating my my copy of Office on one or other device. I don't know. I think I've had to sign into my Office 365 account about 5 times this week. I don't know why that is. Have you had any trouble?
I don't think so. Another nice feature, talking about the syncing of these of your documents, is that the Microsoft Office on the iPad, and I assume on Android too, will now access a Dropbox account as well as an iCloud Drive account. So you can use whatever, you can use OneDrive or Dropbox or iCloud Drive, and it works with all of them.
Okay. Well, real quickly, just we're not going to have enough time to go through details of it, but what do you use for presentation? Let's say you're done writing, and it's time to now share what you talked about. And when you do visual presentation as you preach, I don't know if the two of you, when you speak or preach, always do that. I almost always do it on Sunday mornings, but I don't always do it Sunday nights or Wednesday nights at my church. But when you do, what do you use? What's the number one tool each of you use for presentation of images and text on slides?
Evernote.
Okay.
Evernote is number one, and number 1B is paper.
Okay.
Which sounds interesting because at least on my end, I draw as well as use images and photos. And so between Evernote or paper, I go back and forth between those to display the text and any kind of images. Evernote makes it easy to also integrate audio clips. It does everything on the iOS side because that's what I'm usually using as my controller, except for embedded video.
Okay, Rick?
I use Keynote, and I've used Keynote for a number of years, really ever since the iPad was first released in 2010. The key for any presentation software like that is I want to have on the screen that I'm looking at on an iPad, I want to see not just the slide that's up, from the projector, but I also want to see my presentation notes. And so that's one thing I really appreciate about Keynote. And I will say the new version of PowerPoint Mobile will do that as well. For years there were these kind of knockoff presentation programs, but they wouldn't do the presenter notes. And that's primary for me, because if I can have an image up there that everyone else is looking at, I can have my notes that I'm working from, and whether I'm teaching or preaching, that's very important.
Yeah, I find that also. When I do it on my iPad, I drop everything, all my notes into either. I use PowerPoint more often than Keynote now because of the fact that I've kind of honed in on using Office 365. But either one of them does a nice job, in my opinion, of presenter notes, so that you can have them right there. That way you don't have to keep swapping back and forth. What I have done in the past is I've actually had my phone open, and I'm doing the presentation from my phone, and then have my iPad open with Word or Pages for a while, and doing the, that's where I have my notes. And that just is problematic. It's not very...
Well, but you mentioned your phone. The phone makes a great remote, and there's a remote app for both PowerPoint and Keynote. Well, it's not for Keynote. It's not even a separate app anymore. It's just you can use the Keynote app on your phone to control a Keynote presentation from either your iPad or even, like, say, a MacBook. And so my wife has started doing this because she speaks at different schools all across Kentucky, and she wanted a remote. And I said, well, you've really got one built in from your phone, and she uses that now and loves it. And that frees you to walk around.
Yeah, it does if you need to or want to.
Let me throw another one out there. As something that I've done in the past, I've gotten away from it because now I'm using paper and Evernote a little bit more for my drawing. But if you're savvy with responsive web design, you can actually use a website in order to pull this off. Because of CSS and CSS media queries, there is a presentation or projector media query where if you are projecting that website through a projector, you'll have one projector view, but then on your local computer or your phone, wherever you're controlling that from, you can have your presenter view, either in the mobile format or in your desktop, whatever view format you're using for there, so that you can get the same kind of effect that you're getting. So you're speaking there with a Keynote of having your presenter notes or your speaker notes looking at you while you're controlling the greater presentation. There is a piece out there called S2 and S7, which are JavaScript libraries that do this right from a website. But you do need to have a little bit of web design, responsive web design experience to be able to pull that off.
All right, cool. Well, listen, these have been some great suggestions, and I appreciate your help with this. I'm going to put this video right in that post on my site as well. I think that anything that when you talk about this, I think the most important thing is what works best for you. And while an iPad might be a great and awesome tool for writing and preparing sermons for some people, it's not for me. When I do it, I feel really constrained. I feel really like I'm struggling to do what I want to do. And so that's why I almost never do this. But it's good to know that if you want to, it's there. You're capable of doing so. And if you need to, all of these things, it's a good idea to get these things, get the tools like the keyboard, the stylus, depending on which way you want to work, or both. Make sure you've got the apps installed and ready to go, because the time when you need it is going to be a time when you're probably not going to have time to go run out and get that stuff and do it. So that's what I would suggest.
Let me echo what you're saying there, Kevin, that, I don't generally do everything from scratch on the iPad. I wish I could, because I like the form factor. But most of the time I'm working from my MacBook, and then I transfer things over to the iPad for actual presentation.
Now, I will say that this is, on the iPad as a tablet, this is painful for me to do, but I can do it. It's not as bad as it used to be. I have a feeling that if the rumors are true about Apple releasing an iPad Pro, that may change drastically. And here's why I say that. I've got a Surface Pro 3, and I really, really enjoy using it as my primary study, writing, and presentation tool. And it sounds like Apple is really trying to catch up with Microsoft when it comes to that device. And honestly, I feel like if Apple releases an iPad Pro that's large enough, 12 inches like the iPad, or like the Surface Pro 3, has a great active stylus built in, like the Surface Pro 3, has a really nice keyboard that makes it easy to connect and carry around with the tablet like the Surface Pro 3, then I think, and really good dual screen apps, putting two apps on one screen at the time, I have a feeling that Microsoft's going to be shaking in their boots and will have a hard time selling Surface Pro 4s as a result of it. So we'll see what happens. We'll talk maybe more about that next Friday, because that'll be right after Apple has presented all their goodies. They may show up with absolutely nothing to talk about on the iPad side. It may just be phones and Apple TVs for all we know, but we'll see. Well, guys, thanks for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it, and I'm sorry that Wes had to jump out on us, but Rick and Antoine, appreciate you guys so much and your help with the Theotek podcast.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, and we'll sign off for now. Come join us every Friday mornings at 9 a.m. Follow us on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe there so that you'll get this when it pops up there, even if you can't watch live on Friday mornings. Or if you just prefer audio, go get us on iTunes or Stitcher Radio. And through Stitcher Radio, you can get us on almost any podcasting app on iOS or Android or Windows or whatever. This is Kevin Purcell. We're with the Theotek Podcast. See you later.